Raw Deal Podcast, July 3rd edition. I start my first teaching gig officially as a solo teacher in just over a month, in a month and a day. So tomorrow will be the 1 month away. I'm terrified, Garrett.
You'll do good.
It's just planning out a whole year is just putting a lot of stress on me. I'm rocking the glasses today and then PJs, wearing old Kevin Garnett jersey. It's all faded. Look at that. It's not looking too good. But we had a lot of stuff on Raw. Felt like they crammed a lot of stuff in this episode, didn't it?
Oh yeah, there was definitely some. It was more of a SmackDown type episode where there's less segments, but they put a lot more into each segment, and they're like longer. So I completely agree.
Yeah, and I mean it was a go home show, so usually you don't expect too much out of the go home shows anyway, because you know they don't want to risk anyone getting injured or anything. But for a go home show, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, people almost got injured tonight. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So we kicked off the show with Enzo Amore coming out, and no sign of Cass during this, which I thought was good. They kind of let Enzo have his moment, right? So they pretty much Enzo came out and made his case as to why he shouldn't be seen as a pushover, why he believes he's going to win this match against Cass, which was announced about 15 minutes before Raw went live. It is announced that Enzo versus Cass is on the hashtag Great Balls pay-per-view. Is there any way that, I mean, we'll do our prediction video later on, but is there any way Enzo wins?
Not if they actually want to do anything with Cass. I mean, imagine that. Cass walks out and in like a 5-minute squash, Enzo Amore pins him, and he's like, "What's up? Oh, not what's up? That's Archer. I mean, how you doing?" Wow, look at me. But
Enzo rolls him up.
Yeah, Enzo rolls him up in 30 seconds.
That'd be rough.
Yeah, but completely. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like, I think if Cass is gonna go anywhere, he has to start by beating somebody. I guess who's established. I guess Enzo is technically established.
Right.
I don't think anyone ever thinks he's going to win this match, though. Not if anyone's watched wrestling ever, you know. Like,
what do you think about them? I mean, we knew that Enzo was good on the mic, but what do you think about them having the faith in him to kick off the show?
I think that shows a lot. I think that shows that he's not just going to get pushed to the back and not be a thing on the show anymore. He's obviously going to have something. Maybe he'll team up with the Big Show for a little bit or something, and like he'll just always be that guy with the big man backing him up. Like, I don't know. I can't really think of any other big guys that really need it right now. But, you know. I can see
it. They planted the seeds for a big Cass Big Show match at SummerSlam if they wanted to go that way.
Which they may do. Big Show oftentimes will break in these bigger guys. I think he's done it with Khali. I think he did it with, obviously we did it with Strowman on Raw. I mean, yeah. It's not one of those things where it's unreasonable. And I bet you that because of a good shape that Big Show actually is in recently, that he and Cass could actually put on a pretty athletic match.
Oh, I agree. I think it could surprise a lot of people. You could put that on first on the SummerSlam card and shock a lot of people with how good it is.
Oh, yeah.
So after Enzo came out, we cut to a Big Cass interview directly backstage, in which Big Cass was asked, what do you think about Enzo's words that he said out in the ring? And he said, well, I listened to everything, and, I'm where the money is. Enzo called Big Cass nothing more than a big 7-foot catchphrase that he created, as in Enzo created, which I don't doubt that Enzo came up with probably most of their stuff because he's the talker of the group, and he probably comes up with a lot of the creative ideas for their team.
Hold on, really quickly. Are we live right now?
Yeah.
Are we? Can you look at the chat? Because I can't get the. It's not coming up on my.
I'm looking at it.
Okay, sorry. It's not coming up on my feed. I was like, why does it say we're not?
It won't come up on your feed unless you're on a different account other than the Visokii account.
Oh. Well, fair enough.
So Big Cass is backstage, and Enzo actually tries jumping Cass, gets a couple punches in. Cass kind of tackles him, and they're split up, which I think it shows that there's some hatred there on Enzo's side, because so far we've only seen that fire physically from Cass. So I thought this was also good to add on to the promo that Enzo put out there.
Yeah, like I whenever you get a chance for a smaller guy to jump a bigger guy like that, it's unexpected, because you're like, if you were that guy, you'd be like, well, man, I would just get destroyed. So why would I do that? But he's just, Enzo, it fits right with his character. He bites off more than he can chew. And I think the story they're going to go with this Sunday is that he's going to be getting some licks in. He's going to be getting some hits here and there, but he's not really going to be able to ever overtake Cass fully. And so Cass is just going to come out. So he'll get some licks in, but I don't think it's going to be, I think it'll still be pretty much a squash from Cass.
Yeah, which, I'm all right with. Sasha Banks and Bayley teamed up against Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax is something that we've just been seeing combinations of this for weeks. Sasha ends up being left in a handicap match scenario. Did they play it off? I can't remember. Does Bayley get hurt? Is that what they do?
Yeah, she gets getting beat up.
Bayley tweaked the knee or something. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, Sasha gets left alone and ends up pulling out the win, pinning Alexa Bliss, or not pinning Alexa Bliss, making her submit to the bank statement. Anything big about this match that you remember? I remember saying it's solid. Sasha looked good. Bliss and Jax didn't really get hurt. If anything, they just made Bayley look weak.
I kind of felt like this was a little weird because, a week after becoming challenger, she just beats the champ. And you know what they say about beating people on go-home shows, But I don't know. It is what it is. I feel like if you're going to have the boss pick up a win like this, she also has to pick up a win at the pay-per-view because otherwise, why even do it? I don't, unless you're trying to give her some extra momentum before she goes in and gets all the momentum from the title win. I just don't know.
Yeah. So Kurt Angle and Braun Strowman are standing backstage, and Strowman tells Kurt Angle that he demands competition at the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view, and Kurt's like, well, as far as I know, your match with Roman's still on. He's like Roman will be there. He's told me that he's going to be there. And Strowman said, well, he's not here tonight. So they've said that Roman Reigns is not here tonight, which later on in the night we find out otherwise. But the thing
is, as soon as they brought it up, who thought Roman Reigns was coming out? Everybody put your hands up.
Who thought Roman was actually gone? No one.
Nobody.
So Strowman tells him he wants competition at Great Balls of Fire because Roman's not going to show up, and he also wants competition tonight because Roman's not going to be there tonight. And so Kurt's like, well, I'll find you some competition for the night. Don't worry, kind of thing. Strowman's just like, I'll be out in the ring later tonight, and you better find me competition. Setting up the main event for Raw as a whole. I think Strowman, he's always been good on the mic, right? But he's just really coming into his own. I think he's looking more and more like a top guy every week.
Oh, yeah. Ever since he started coming out every week and beating jobbers, I think at that moment is when everyone should have realized how big this guy was really going to get, because you don't just see that for people. Like the times that they usually bring them out is either when it's a champion that's a heel that needs to defend their title still every week if they want to claim that they're fighting champion, or it's a baby face that's going to build up until they beat an actual wrestler. But this is different because it's just a guy coming out and squashing everybody. The matches this guy has, they're not even contests. They're just how long Braun Strowman wants them to go at this point. And if you can get your monster heel to look like that, to where everyone's going to believe it so well that they just wouldn't even consider having a match with the guy unless he attacked them, then I think you've got something really good going at that point.
Which WWE tends to do that really well with their big guys historically. They did it with Big Show, Undertaker, Kane, more recently Strowman, Lesnar. These guys that they want to seem as the monster characters, Samoa Joe, they're really coming across like that. The downfall was always, okay, Lesnar was so dominant and he came out and killed John Cena. That one SummerSlam match a couple years ago, that was like, whoa, what the hell just happened? But then once Lesnar lost, he had to get so much more momentum back. So it's yet to be seen, once Strowman loses clean to someone like Roman Reigns, will he be able to rebound quickly, or will he just be an afterthought like all the other big guys that we've seen?
Afterthought is definitely not a word I would think I will ever use to describe Braun Strowman. I think there is the potential for the guy to need to go away for a while and come back to a big pop. I think he's capable of doing that now. He proved it already. Gone for like 6 weeks or something, and then comes back and boom, But I think this is also a person like in the same vein as like John Cena or Randy Orton when they used to get injured back in the day in the top of their original runs with the company. That they would need to use that as a storyline. Otherwise, they just fade a little bit too much, and by the time they come back, everyone's like, okay, what do they do now? So I feel like if Braun Strowman keeps up the hot streak that he's got going, as long as he doesn't get hurt again in the near future, I think there's nothing that can stop the guy from going to the top.
I agree. They could strap the rocket to him right now and be fine, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cedric Alexander versus Noam Dar was the first cruiserweight match on this card. Alexander is pretty damn over with the crowd still, especially in the spectrum of how the cruiserweights get treated by crowds. And he still has this thing going on with Noam Dar where Dar is like, okay, it's really weird because Cedric Alexander is like, all right, I'm done with this feud. And Dar comes out on 205 and is like, I'm done with this feud. And then Cedric Alexander comes out on Raw and he's like, after tonight, I'm done with this feud. And then Dar comes out and it's like, okay, I guess the feud's not done. Both guys have claimed multiple times that this feud is over, and yet they keep matching up against each other. It's a weird situation. But Alexander ends up getting the win with the lumbar check. Pretty quick, but solid match. Alicia Fox is officially back on TV, but with the neck brace, even though she took it off at the end, so maybe she won't have it from now on. Having Alicia there is definitely better than having her over FaceTime, right?
Yeah, that was the dumbest thing I think they've ever really done. It was a funny thing when Tyler Breeze did it because, that's part of his character, but like, they didn't even change the Tyler Breeze phone thing on the Titantron at all. They just used the same exact thing and put Alicia Fox on it instead. So I assume what they did was they took Tyler Breeze's like selfie stick, just had her hold it, and then but yeah, anyway, that's a whole separate thing. But yeah, like this match, I mean, I thought it was a good match. It was a better match when we usually get out of cruiserweights. I think they finally realized the match quality has to match the superstars, otherwise people are going to start just tuning out.
Oh yeah, both cruiserweight matches. When the superstars came out, I was like, oh good, maybe this will actually be a good match. Like Dar's good and Alexander's good, so I was like, all right, sweet. Hopefully, get a pretty good match.
Yeah, and my dad is always like, he's a old school wrestling fan. I've talked about him on the podcast before. Like he's a big believer. He doesn't really talk about it, but he's a big believer in the two most important things are the entrance and the finisher. And his head perked up when Noam Dar's music came on, and then he was like, his head perked up again when he hit the lumbar when Cedric Alexander hit the lumbar check, and he's like, well, that's a good move. And I was like, yeah. And so, it's like an old school wrestling fan's opinion. So this was a good match, and he's usually not even that. He doesn't really like the cruiserweights at all that much because they don't really. Like, I think he usually fast forwards it when we're not watching live.
He doesn't like the flippy shit.
Well, it's not that. I mean, he was there for the original flippy stuff. He doesn't see it as necessary in every match, which I can understand.
Right. No, I get that. Miz came out for a MizTV segment, started bragging about how he was the reason for the rating spikes during the LeVar Ball, Lonzo Ball thing last week, which obviously wasn't the case. But, he's a heel. So he comes out basically saying he's done with Dean Ambrose and, he's like, whatever, Dean Ambrose is going to demand his title match and blah, blah, blah. So Dean does come out, demand his title match to go on tonight. And so then as Dean's like about to go get into the ring, Heath Slater's music hits, accompanied by Rhino, of course.
Best shirt of the year.
Yeah. Okay. So Slater's wearing his I Got Kids shirt, and Rhino's wearing I'm with Heath shirt. Pretty okay. Rhino needs to walk around with a can of Cheese Whiz.
Yeah, dude, that just needs to be his gimmick. I don't care what anybody says.
Like, that would just be so good.
Because that cheese whiz gimmick works so well with the trailer park gimmick that you got Heath Slater at this point. It's just so perfect because you're like, oh yeah, this guy, they're just both some good old boys, like they're just whatever, like it's great.
One thing that I kind of don't like is that like Dean Ambrose was completely fine. So Kurt Angle comes out and announces that Miz is going to defend his title twice. Well, kind of. He's going to defend it tonight against Heath Slater, and then whoever wins that match is going to go against Dean Ambrose. And nobody thought that Miz was going to drop the title. But we did end up having an IC title match. One thing that I thought was interesting is like Dean is completely fine with Heath getting a title match before him. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Despite the fact
I hate how like
rematch,
all faces have to love each other.
Yeah, it's stupid because none of them even like because in the old days of wrestling, like it didn't matter who you were. Like I would watch. I think I'm always thinking back to TNA when I think about all this stuff, but I would watch like an intertwined promo on TNA back in the day where it'd be like AJ Styles about like mouthing off at like Ricochet or something, but then Low Key would come out and be like, I don't care about you, I'll get to you in a minute. Like now it's just like, oh hey buddy, what's going on? Let me talk to this person for a moment. Like the politeness is there, and maybe it's supposed to be part of the anti-bullying thing that they're trying not to make everyone seem like because everything's fine and dandy. That's what the message they have to put out to the world. So but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want your opinion on this because for me, it's never really. I remember the days when wrestling, everyone was just going for the gold and they didn't care who they had to stomp in the face to get there.
Yeah, and I don't think it necessarily has to be that everyone's trying to be like a super macho badass or like, like the title's mine, like I'm going for it. But yeah, back in the day, I mean, The Rock and Steve Austin, you always go back to those two. One of them was always the face and one of them was always the heel. They rarely did a face versus face or heel versus heel angle. And so, but both of them at the same time, you can have the mutual respect, which Dean Ambrose did show for Miz, which was good. They alluded to that. Dean was like, hey, Miz ain't no slouch. Like, he's really good in the ring, which I respect. But it's like the fact that, like, baby faces and heels all hate each other. None of them get along backstage. And all the baby faces get along, and the heels usually get along, except for a couple exceptions, like Baron Corbin, who hates everyone, and
Right.
and Braun Strowman. I just think it's dumb that just because who is it with the Dana Brooke, and she hated like all of the babyface women for so long, and yet all of a sudden they're friends now.
Well, yeah, that's a glaring example. But like, then you get like Sheamus and Cesaro were a heel/face tag team for a minute, which is like a step in the right direction, I guess. But it's also like, like for instance, like if AJ Styles on SmackDown right now were a heel, because this plays SmackDown too. If AJ Styles was a heel on SmackDown, I feel like they would still have to show that him and Nakamura are buddy and have history, because that's just something that makes more sense. Like especially if you start thinking back to all these guys that went to Ring of Honor. So I would expect Samoa Joe, if he ever ended up on SmackDown, to be like, look at Daniel Bryan and be like, hey, respect. I remember from Ring of Honor, or like something along those lines, like, or just pick your people that were in these places, and there's history there. And they choose to ignore it most of the time. And
they did it with Owens and Zayn, and that's like it. And then Joe alluded to it today in one of his promos,
which was nice, but
very interesting. So the Miz defeats Heath Slater. It was a pretty good match. I enjoyed the match for the Intercontinental title. The Miz wins via distractions and stuff that he always wins by.
Shenanigans.
He wins via shenanigans. Poor Heath, but he's got kids. He had a pretty loud "He's got kids" chant in the middle of the match. But dude, I thought the match was good.
That power slam off the top rope was like brutal.
Yeah, that made everyone in there pop. It was great. Hit a great power slam, like you said, right off the top. That was the big false finish of the match for him. And I don't know. Miz ends up winning. Solid match. Apollo Crews is backstage with Titus O'Neil. They're talking about how Apollo Crews is a new father and how he's found this rejuvenated spirit and how he's ready to just go conquer everything. Crews can't lose is the new slogan. I kind of like it. these two have really grown on me. And Titus thinks that in order to get a nice big payday, Apollo Crews should go out and face Braun Strowman in the main event because Kurt Angle's still looking for people to go do it. What do you think about kind of Titus has become so funny that Apollo might be a really big beneficiary of this?
I mean, like, so yeah, because it's so illogical. The thing that's gonna make your career take off is the thing that'll also end your career. You know, it's like so ridiculous. But he's like, you know, it's good when a wrestler can believe what they say in their promos, because sometimes tonight was a little different, but I feel like Dean Ambrose doesn't believe the words that he's saying when he says them, and that might partly be because he's not writing his own promos anymore, according to insiders. But you know, like it's one of those weird things that I feel like if everybody did this, the promos would all just be on such a higher level, because I feel like everyone cuts at least good promos, but like no one cuts fantastic promos except for a chosen few. And you know, and if they could just do that, if they could make me believe that they actually believe what they're saying, then it would be a lot better.
And Titus is very good at, even if it's cheesy, he rolls with it. He's pretty good at even delivering any sort of promos. He doesn't get enough credit. Really,
the Nexus really changed the face of WWE. People don't want to admit it, but it really did.
Oh God!
Look at where there's still members of it prominently on WWE television today. So you know.
Yeah. So Goldust premiered the Shattered Truth. Basically just the awkward camera guy that you saw in the ring last week. It was all the shots of him. It was cool, I guess. It just basically instead of Goldust coming out and doing the standard, last week I kicked R-Truth's ass. Look at the footage. Instead of doing the whole let's throw it to the Jumbotron, he just said, "Here's my debut production." And then they showed a replay of last week at different camera angles. And then R-Truth jumped in from behind and they had a little brawl, and that was it.
I mean, WWE has some of the best editors in the world, don't get me wrong. They make some of the most amazing promo packages ever. But this particular one to me, and this is coming from a first-year media production student, literally starting in like 3 weeks, it seemed like I could have cut this myself, even though I have no skills, because going in,
get some footage, grab iMovie, throw some text over the top.
Mm-hmm. And then people are gonna probably be like, "Oh, that's the best production staff in the world," and all this, but I don't know. I feel like it could have been done better, especially if they're gonna hype it up as much as they did. I mean, it gave it a whole segment. You know, it was just like, it just felt odd to me. You know.
Yeah, it was just not very good.
It wasn't on the quality you expect from WWE's editing staff, and it's probably because they probably threw this together last minute. So I'm not going to blame them for that. It's got to be one of the worst jobs in the world, having to go from city to city, or even just sitting in one place while they go from city to city and cutting all this stuff together. You know, like trying to keep up with the schedule, even if you're not going with them directly, would be difficult. But I feel like there should be more quality put into these things, especially if you're going to go with the gimmick that you're going with. You know, that this is his production, you know, but it doesn't feel very magical, if you will, if it's supposed to, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that's the thing. Did Goldust edit it himself? He never really says. Maybe Goldust was making an iMovie. If so, I would have to, give him a little bit of kudos. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. If he's actually doing it himself, then that's really good, because I'm not sure how much training he's had in that field. So, you know.
Right, exactly. So who knows? Good job, Goldust, if that was all you. I mean, he was the director, he said, but he was the director, but he's also the lead star. So who knows? Maybe he edited as well. But let's just hope at Great Balls of Fire, R-Truth and Goldust fight through the crowd and fight out of the building, and then that's the last we see of either of them. Ever.
Just gone. Just fire them both. Put them out in the summer releases. Oh man, that'd be terrible.
So
Goldust comes out at SummerSlam to announce his retirement, and R-Truth couldn't be here tonight because he was so terrible. No.
So Cesaro and Sheamus, they let Kurt Angle know that they are the Bar, And Cesaro says that he wants Finn Balor in a match, and Kurt Angle gives it to him. So that's kind of it. It sets up a match for later on in the night. We might as well just talk about it now, skipping ahead a little bit. But Balor versus Cesaro happened. I thought the match was pretty good. A lot of the same stuff from Balor. I thought that the moves were a little sloppy. They might have been trying to impress people so much that they missed some spots. There were a couple like really obvious misses with kicks and punches. But other than that, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, these two guys, if you put them in the ring together, it's like when they gave away Cesaro over Sami Zayn on TV like several months ago, which is where Sami debuted a new move again with Cesaro. I forget what it was that time, but he didn't.
Cesaro versus Jeff Hardy, they ruined too. That could have been a big match.
Dude, yeah. I mean, there's so many of these great matches, and we'll probably see them again eventually, but like it won't be the same impact because we've already seen them. People will be like, well, didn't we see this on Raw like 4 months ago or whatever? I mean, they try to act like if it doesn't happen before one of the big four it doesn't happen after one of the whatever big four pay-per-view that they hit, then it doesn't exist, So because those are like the resets. Every 4 or 5 pay-per-views or so, they hit a reset. I think Great Balls of Fire is going to be another one of those resets for Raw up until SummerSlam. And then again, I don't know because they're billing it like because it's another big summer event to have right before SummerSlam, and I just don't know if they're going to end up be like wasting too many good opportunities they should have saved for SummerSlam. I just don't know.
I mean, if you look at Great Balls of Fire, which feuds could continue? We don't want to see any more Strowman and Reigns. We don't want to see any more Hardys and Cesaro and Sheamus. We don't want to see any more Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt. We don't want to see any more Miz, Dean Ambrose. So this has to be the end of a lot of them, right?
Oh, yeah, and if it's not, then it's going to annoy some people because at the end of the day, SummerSlam is the reset, and so they got to reset, but they're resetting all those feuds that they're going to have to take to the next pay-per-view for Raw, whatever that is. Because they're going to be starting at SummerSlam. And, feuds either start or end at these big four pay-per-views. And so since they're ending 3 of their big feuds that are going on right now, right before, they're going to have something that's going to carry them to the next pay-per-view. All right, which
the good thing is, if they put on a really good match, if there's a good program in SummerSlam, people want to see it continue, they can, and it won't be stale yet.
But it's going to be odd because you're going to have a bunch of feuds on SmackDown ending and a bunch of ones on Raw beginning at the pay-per-view, and it's just going to feel odd because everything's going to feel inconclusive because it's the start of stuff at the end, and you don't ever want that at your big summer show. So,
yeah, I can see that. So Seth Rollins came out to the ring. Kurt Hawkins was in the ring, didn't get an entrance again. Seth Rollins beat him in about 8 seconds. Anything big about this match, man? You're a Kurt Hawkins fan.
Kurt Hawkins cut himself a little promo. Then he got punched in the face. Then he got beat in about like 15 seconds or something.
He got kicked in the gut, hit with a Rainmaker knee.
Yeah, I don't know what they're even going to call that move. Yeah, it was a match. Whatever. It happened. Just put it on the list because it
was a way to get Seth Rollins on TV.
Yeah, which. They also, I think right after this announced that there was going to be a match between him and Bray Wyatt or something officially.
Which, I'll be honest, we can talk about it now. Bray Wyatt had a promo as the same shit he's been saying for months, except he was standing in a desert instead of a
years, dude. Let's be real. He's been saying the same stuff for years. It just felt more fresh for the first 3 or 4, or however many years, because it was new and it was different and there wasn't anything else like that. And now,
once again, if he had won, it would feel special. But
yeah, he won like almost 3 times in that time, majorly. I mean, come on, dude.
I remember he just that's his thing. He loses, he'll win one feud like maybe a year.
And to him, that's fine. Like if you watch him in interviews, he's like, I don't care if I win, if I lose. All that matters is if I get to go out there and do this every week. It's like, well, yeah, I get that, especially coming from wrestling, big wrestling family. But like, I don't know, something is like, and then it's like it plagues a lot of modern, really over wrestlers. Him, Dean Ambrose, Rollins suffers from it sometimes. Definitely Finn Balor most of the time. They just get so caught up in the crowd and so caught up in the moment that they don't take the time to be like, well, I should go for more. And you know, Vince McMahon has talked about it in the past. Not everybody's willing to just go out there and reach for the brass ring, you know, whatever that means anymore.
Well, I think the issue is the only way to become like a super top guy, unless the audience gets you there organically, the only way to become a top guy is to go against the grain and kind of, just press against the creative team, press against Vince, and be like, no, I know what's best for my character. Give me more creative control. And that's what Bray Wyatt needs to do. But it seems like he's just going with the status quo, kind of just being like, all right, what the writers give me is good. I'll put my own spin on it. We're done. Get my paycheck, leave.
And it's unfortunate because guys like that, they deserve more, and they could achieve a lot more than they're willing to try. And I just wish these people, because we mentioned it before, the old school style of wrestling was everybody tried to get over all at the same time, and a lot of people got over because they were just allowed to do whatever. Now you get told you're doing this week at this time, and then you're going to be off the camera by this time. And
if you go against the grain, all of a sudden you end up like Bayley.
Yep. I mean, look, she tried to do everything she could. She was putting on good matches. She was just never allowed to really fully shine, and now everyone just beats up on her, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous when you look at it, because you know there's so much potential everywhere on every aspect of all these shows right now, but none of them are taking it to the next level at this point.
Yeah. So we had kind of a SportsCenter style interview. I thought this was a really cool concept between Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar. There were definitely some plot holes, which I'll talk about soon. But pretty much they had Michael Cole hooked up to the TV broadcast and the live audience, and he was conducting an interview on split screen on the Jumbotron to Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar, which was revealed that they were both sequestered in rooms on opposite sides of the arena. Do you like the way that they filmed this?
Oh yeah, I thought it was interesting. So what they did was they took 2 hard cameras. They just sat them down in these rooms. They put them, they lined them up right. Fireworks going off around here. They put them there. And then
11:57, America.
Yeah. Oh yeah, America. All right, cool. But what was it? Oh yeah, so and they had just these 2 cameras just on them, and they had them mic'd up properly. They had them, they had Brock ready to speak. He did stumble a couple of times, because everyone knows he's not the greatest talker, but they had Heyman there to save him if they needed to, but he did pretty well. Yeah, this was different. I mean, it's better than just having one person on a camera like that behind the scenes and then one person out in the ring, or, both people like just interviewing separately at separate times throughout the night. This was at the same time, and it was like they had like a conference connected, but I think it was probably just they had like an earpiece or something. But yeah, it was, and they let Joe have most of the talk time, which I want to know your thought on that. I thought it was good because it left a little bit for for Brock to be able to think of what he was going to say, because despite what people think, the guy actually can talk on his feet, but he's not always the best because he's been, he's predispositioned to rely on Heyman for his promos. So I want to get your thoughts on this, though.
I thought the concept was good. I thought the delivery was shit. I thought pretty much Lesnar said nothing. Pretty much Joe sat there and yelled for like 5 minutes and made himself angry. And then they made this whole deal about how they had no idea where each other were. And yet Joe gets up and Lesnar's just sitting there like laughing. And Joe's just screaming, I'm going to come get you. I'm going to come find you. All right, I'm done with this. Rips off his mic and goes straight to the room where Lesnar is. He doesn't ask, where's Lesnar? And some guy points out. It would have been as simple as grab some backstage guy with a headset on and be like, where the hell is Brock Lesnar? And the guy is so terrified that he points to where Lesnar's room is. Yeah. None of that happened. He got up, walked straight out of the room, walked right to Lesnar's room, and opens the door, and Lesnar's just standing there, and then Samoa Joe is pulled away. I just thought it was stupid because Lesnar gave him no reason to be pissed off. Lesnar just kind of said, all right, well, we'll see come pay-per-view, you're fighting me. and he just did your standard stuff, and yet Joe got so pissed off. And if you look at it from a logical standpoint, no one would be that pissed off because Lesnar did nothing to set him off.
Yeah, I have to agree because it's just one of those segments where they wanted something different and they ended up just not considering what they were actually going to be doing. I think it was one of those ones where they were supposed to feed off of each other, and Lesnar's not the best at that. So, yeah, it was mostly just him going, "Oh, really? Oh, okay." Like, you know.
Yeah. Lesnar was like, "Oh, you're fighting me, not Paul Heyman." And Joe's like, "You're goddamn right I was. I'm fighting you." And just like, all right, well,
I'm not finished with you.
Joe, chill out a little bit. Like I said, good idea, poor execution, in my opinion. Our second cruiserweight match of the night was Neville versus Mustafa Ali. It was your standard match where Neville looked like the brute. Mustafa Ali got to showcase his athleticism.
America.
What?
It's 12. I said America. It's 12.
America. Midnight. Happy 4th. Independence Day. Yay. Is that where, is this when Columbus sailed? Or is this where we killed the Indians?
Jesus.
Now, if you polled 100 random people, Americans born and raised here, I wonder how many could tell you what the 4th of July actually celebrates.
10. I don't know. 10% of them probably.
Probably. It's depressing. So, Neville versus Mustafa Ali was a solid match. They played it up as Ali came in, gave it his all, but Neville outsmarted him and ended up getting the win. Any big spots that really stuck out to you?
That clothesline, that was pretty brutal. It was like Ali did a flip out of the corner or something, and then he got caught by the clothesline as soon as he hit his feet, and it just looked brutal because he was still in momentum.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, this wasn't I was kind of half watching this map, half reading a match. Match reading a book at the same time. So I was bored. I was like, it's another cruiserweight match, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Neville,
that's how a lot of people are. But I think they did a good job of, like I said, Alexander Dar, that's a good pairing. Neville versus Ali, good pairing. They're not just throwing out terrible people. It will be interesting. Once they bring on, I feel like they're going to just pick a random Raw where it has a lot of downtime in it, and they're going to be like, all right, we need a spark. Let's bring in, someone really good. Bring in Grand Metalik or something,
Well, the thing is, they just have forgotten that Austin Aries even exists. He's just gone off TV.
Austin Aries was not over with the crowd. That's the problem.
Maybe they are planning to release him. I don't know, but I mean, he never got over because they didn't put the belt on him ever. And if they really wanted him to get over, that's what they needed to do. I mean, not saying Neville needed to lose it, but he needed to take it off Neville and then maybe lose it back to him to be able to stake his claim. Because now when he comes back, people are going to be like, Austin Aries, what?
I think that's the problem with the majority of all of the cruiserweight division right now, is the only way that people can seem like a top guy is to be the top guy and have the title. If Neville dropped the title, he wouldn't be seen in nearly the same light. Whoever has the title will be seen as legitimate, and whoever doesn't have the title won't be seen as legitimate. The title makes the wrestler right now in the cruiserweight division.
But the wrestler doesn't quite make the title most of the times.
Sometimes they do. The Miz does.
Yeah.
Miz makes that title. Finn Balor kind of made the original Raw title, the Universal Championship. Champion of the Universe. Then we had the Bray Wyatt segment, which we already talked about. It was weird. Alexa Bliss was backstage. She delivered a great line. So, who was it?
It was Charlie. Yeah.
So Charlie was backstage, which, speaking of that, our Charlie, you'll know he's absent. He had to work till late tonight, so he probably won't be hopping in at all. But Alexa Bliss was backstage, and Charlie gave her a comment of, God, what was it?
Oh, nobody's gonna believe that you.
Oh, that's right. So Alexa said that she let Sasha submit her early in the night, and Charlie's like, "Well, come on, no one's gonna believe that you actually let Sasha just win." And she was like, "Look, there's a reason why you're holding a mic and I'm holding the Raw Women's Championship." And it was like, ooh.
Well, you're supposed to hate her, and like she drops a line like that every now and then, and you're like, man.
It was like, damn, that was mean.
One thing we didn't really talk
Charlie
about.
might have had dreams of being a superstar one day.
Maybe, you never know. But like, we didn't talk about it earlier. The saddest part of this night, I think, was when Alexa Bliss came out. She came out to a bigger pop than Sasha and Bayley.
Yep.
Which is not good when you're heel champion, who, by the way, should be over, but because of how good she is. But, you know, when she's the only one that can get a big pop like that when she comes out, you have a serious problem with the baby faces in your division.
I mean, people love rooting for heels. Like, it's people, like, okay, it always comes down to the DX thing. Like, DX was just being a bunch of dicks, but it was funny. What they were doing was funny, and it was good entertainment. The heels are always more entertaining than the baby faces because the heels are allowed more creative freedom generally, and they can just say what's on their mind, whereas the baby faces have to be coddled, and they have to be careful with what they say to keep it, keep their PR up and stuff like that. So people generally just gravitate towards the heels, and they're cool. The heels are the cool one. The baby faces are the corporate shills.
Yeah. Which, whatever. But like, this is just, I feel like it shows something. If it's not, if at very least, if it's not bad, it shows something that the other superstars need to look at. Because I'm sure when they heard that, they were like, man.
Yeah, I agree. So, Braun Strowman comes out awaiting his competition, and Apollo Crews does end up answering the call and comes out, and Strowman beats the piss out of him for about 90% of the match, and then probably 93% of the match, and then Apollo Crews gets 30 seconds of offense in, knocks Strowman down, and then Strowman absolutely kills him. So we've all seen Apollo Crews do his standing moonsault on a downed opponent. He goes to, like, he's going to do that. It looks more like he's going to do a senton. But so it's like he's going to go for that moonsault, and Strowman absolutely kicks him almost out of the ring.
I mean,
and it popped the announcers big. Like, the announcers couldn't, all of them were laughing. That's what was great.
I mean, like, the funny thing is, too, like we said last week on our SmackDown review, go watch that if you haven't yet. But we said that we thought Ellsworth took the bump of the century. I think Apollo Crews went and just took that title. He got kicked so hard. I thought he actually got knocked out for a second.
Bump of the century goes to the Singh brothers at the last SmackDown pay-per-view.
You're right about that. But, I mean, I don't know. It was just one of those bumps where you're like, whoo.
Oh yeah.
He could actually be out right now, and we'd just be like, wow.
Like, if it came out that Apollo Crews was actually hurt, because Strowman definitely didn't it wasn't like a push with his legs. Like, he actually kicked the guy, and Cole was like, wow, he could have broken ribs. It's like, no, seriously, he probably could.
Yeah, I mean, Strowman. I mean, I think I've heard stuff about the Big Show when he ends up. He's a really safe worker, but when he's not safe, it's really bad. I think that would be the same thing for Strowman, especially when he's like attacking people like that. Because it's one thing.
He's so powerful. He's a power lifter.
Right. You'd think with a guy like that, when he goes to power slam you or choke slam you, that's where you could really get hurt, and you could because of how high up you're going from him. But he's got more control of that. When he's just kicking you or punching you, and a big man like that, even though he's probably got a lot of control over his body. I mean, the man could do a damn kip up for Christ's sake. But it's still a big man like that still has some problems. So I mean, there's a reason they had to tighten down the ropes when the guys like him and the Big Show come out. Because otherwise their sheer size is enough that you could really get hurt.
Honest question. Do you think with the weight loss drop that Big Show might be capable of a kip up?
If they did it in the match with Strowman at SummerSlam, I think it would get a massive pop.
If Big Show and Strowman
I don't
knock
know, his frame's like
down at
Strowman's
SummerSlam.
frame is more built for it than Big Show's, I think.
Oh, well, I agree. But I'm saying if Big Show is able to, if he's practicing it and is able to get it, and at SummerSlam they knock each other down and they both do kip-ups and do the stare down at each other,
Oh,
they'll
my.
get the biggest pop of the night.
Yeah, no way. There's no other way that. Yeah, if that doesn't happen, that'll be depressing now. But it probably, I don't know. It's like one of those dreams we throw out there in every so few episodes. But like, yeah, I mean, that would be great. It would be a huge pop. It would be, I would pop. I'd be like, I can't believe I just saw that, even though we talked about it already. Like,
Oh God, yeah. I'd be like, I would come on after the pay-per-view and be like, all right, we mentioned this last week. I did not think that was going to happen because I still don't think there would be any way, but.
yeah, I mean,
Very cool. So Braun Strowman ends up beating Apollo Crews, and then beats up Titus O'Neil after. He beats Apollo Crews convincingly. Keeps picking. He hits him with a running power slam. Picks his head up at 2. Another power slam. Picks his head up at 2. Another power slam. Finally pins him, and then throws Apollo Crews into the ambulance. And taps on the door for the ambulance to go, and the ambulance doesn't go. And he's like, what the hell, man? The driver asleep at the wheel goes to open the door. Out pops Roman Reigns. Were you completely shocked, Garrett, that Roman Reigns was in that ambulance?
Man, Roman Reigns is like the Grim Reaper, or not the Grim Reaper. He's like Beetlejuice at this point. You mention his name 3 times on an episode, and he shows up. I mean, like, because he mentioned him at the start of the show. He's like, wow, Roman Reigns. And then, like, you mentioned him twice or so many times in his promo, and then he just shows up later. Like, nobody did not know, except maybe kids watching, that this was going to happen, which is who it was for, the big superhero coming to save the day. I don't know. It wasn't surprising at all. As soon as they talked about it in the earlier segment, I was like, yeah, there's no way Roman Reigns doesn't show up to the show at some point.
Oh, exactly. And so Roman gets the upper hand. They start brawling. Strowman gets a little bit of offense in, not too much though. It's pretty much Roman just beating him up. Roman throws him into the stage set, which kind of shakes up Strowman. He's standing on the edge. Roman does his ooh-ah and spears him off the stage through a table. And Roman gets up, and as we go off air, Strowman is back on his feet about 30 seconds later. So they're showing that it's going to be a hell of a match. Great balls of fire. I actually think the match is going to be fantastic.
I wouldn't hazard to say fantastic, personally. I think they're going to do better. I think it will be the best ambulance match in history. Whatever that says.
I can't remember other specific ambulance matches. So
it's happened.
What has better odds? This being the best ambulance match in history, or the Jinder Mahal Randy Orton Punjabi Prison to be the best Punjabi Prison match in history?
I think if they're both not the best match out of all the matches that have existed of this stipulation, then they don't even deserve to be on the pay-per-view.
Which, by the way, WWE YouTube channel just put the Batista Great Khali ending of the Punjabi Prison on their YouTube channel. And if you guys are wondering, I looked it up because I couldn't remember what the other match was, because I was like, I think that was the only one. I was like, it would make no sense for Great Khali to not be in both of the 2 previous matches. But that's because
mentioned that. He wasn't in one of them.
Yeah, Khali failed a drug test, allegedly. They pulled him out for raised levels of something. And so it was Undertaker and Big Show, I think.
Was it Big Show and Mark Henry, maybe? No,
it wasn't Mark Henry. No, I think it was Taker and someone. I think it was Taker Big Show.
Maybe. It was some weird combination of big dudes.
But Great Khali wasn't in the other one. So interesting that Khali wasn't even in his own match for half of them.
Which is,
been 2 of all time. And
in the third one, he's not going to be in it either. So,
Right. Well, at least, I mean, there's an Indian guy. That's kind of the point, is that someone's going to actually, speak the Punjab language. That's the whole point. It's an Indian-style match. So
yeah. I mean, yeah. What are you to do?
Yeah, exactly. So we go off air, but Roman has the upper hand, meaning Strowman will probably win if we're going based off that theory. But they've been proving that wrong in recent weeks. So we'll see. Great balls of fire. What happens? Let's go to grades. What would you grade tonight's Raw?
I will give it a B plus because I think it was a decent show, and for a go home show, it was probably the best go home show we've had, not on SmackDown in a while. So yeah, B plus.
I think I'll give it like a B. It did what it needed to do, but it didn't really get me any more or less excited for anything. I thought the cruiserweight matches were good. They didn't necessarily drag anything down. There weren't too many things that dragged the show down other than the Golden Truth stuff. And things could have been executed better, like the Joe Lesnar stuff. But I thought Enzo and Cass, their stuff at the beginning was good. I thought the ending was pretty good. So I'll give it a B.
Cool.
And I don't know. If Charlie wants to post his grade on Twitter, then he can, or maybe in the comments. But be sure to like, subscribe, click the little bell so you know when we go live. If you guys have been watching Big Brother, then come to our live streams.
Check out the last episode, State of NXT.
Yeah, that was good. And also check out Garrett's video that he posted on Impact/Global Force Wrestling.
Got like 100 views.
Jeff Jarrett filed to change it to Global Force Wrestling, which was his old company, but the wrestlers didn't even know about a name change, so no one knew if it was Impact Wrestling or Global Force Wrestling. As far as people in the back, no one even knew what Slammiversary was under for a company name. It's a mess.
Yeah, I went through a couple of articles on there, and I also talked about some other news, so go check that out.
Yeah, go check it out, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday for wrestling.